Right now, something subtle yet profound is happening inside Walmart stores across America, and most shoppers walk right past it without realizing what is changing. The brightly lit aisles, tidy end caps, and endless rows of products are designed to give us a feeling of absolute abundance. We assume that if a store as massive as Walmart has stocked a specific staple for decades, it will always be sitting on that blue shelf waiting for us. However, if you look closer at the lower shelves, the back corners of the dry goods aisles, and the shifting price tags, a quiet transformation is underway. Foods that used to be cheap, abundant, and completely reliable are beginning to shrink in display size, jump sharply in price, or disappear from store inventory altogether. This is not happening with a sudden, dramatic news headline about empty shelves nationwide, which is precisely why it is so dangerous. It happens piece by piece through subtle retail adjustments, altered distribution routes, corporate inventory trimming, and behind-the-scenes supply chain shifts. When you walk into your local Walmart today, you are looking at a carefully managed inventory system that is prioritizing high-margin items over affordable, long-lasting basics. The 8 foods featured in this breakdown are not random luxury goods or seasonal novelties. They represent the foundational staples that American households rely on when budgets get tight, when inflation eats into take-home pay, and when families need to stretch every single dollar into real, nourishing meals. When these foundational products quietly vanish or become unreliable, it fundamentally alters how families shop, cook, and survive. Let us count down the 8 food items quietly disappearing from Walmart shelves right now, and examine why every smart shopper needs to pay close attention. Starting off our list at number 8, we have budget cooking oils, particularly large-format vegetable, canola, and basic soybean oils. For decades, Walmart was the ultimate destination for massive, low-cost jugs of cooking oil that could sit in a pantry for months and power hundreds of family meals. Cooking oil is one of those invisible backbone ingredients in the kitchen that people rarely think about until the price doubles or the selection vanishes. Whether you are frying, baking, roasting, or simply greasing a pan, almost every hot meal requires some form of cooking fat. However, global agricultural pressures, rising shipping costs, and shifting commercial priorities have placed immense strain on the production and distribution of basic edible oils. When you walk down the baking and oil aisle at Walmart today, you will notice a distinct shift in how the shelves are arranged. The massive, inexpensive store-brand jugs are frequently out of stock or replaced by much smaller, significantly more expensive specialty oils like avocado, coconut, or imported olive oil blends. While premium options are fine for casual cooking, they do not offer the sheer volume and affordability that working families depend on to stretch their weekly grocery budget. Without an affordable cooking oil in the pantry, simple staple ingredients become far harder to prepare, meals taste flatter, and stretching basic dry goods into satisfying dinners becomes a daily challenge. The quiet reduction of budget cooking oils on Walmart shelves is an early warning sign that basic processing and distribution systems are prioritizing higher profit items over low-cost consumer essentials. Moving to number 7, pure natural honey is undergoing a quiet, troubling disappearance from store shelves across the country. Honey is often viewed as a timeless pantry staple because raw, unadulterated honey famously never spoils, making it one of the most practical food items a person can own. Beyond being a simple sweetener for tea or toast, honey serves as an essential baking agent, a natural preservative, a source of quick energy, and a versatile household staple. However, commercial beekeeping has faced unprecedented challenges over the last few years, ranging from habitat loss and colony collapse issues to surging costs for transportation and food-grade glass packaging. As a result, the supply of genuine, pure honey has tightened dramatically nationwide. At Walmart, this supply strain manifests in a very specific, subtle way that many shoppers miss. The shelf space dedicated to real, single-origin honey is shrinking, while the space occupied by highly processed honey blends, ultra-filtered syrups, and imported sweeteners cut with corn syrup is expanding. True honey is becoming a luxury item on retail shelves, with prices rising so fast that many budget-conscious shoppers are forced to leave it off their lists entirely. When a long-lasting, highly versatile natural staple like pure honey becomes scarce or artificially altered on store shelves, it reduces a household's ability to build a truly resilient, shelf-stable pantry without relying on heavily refined artificial sugars. Coming in at number 6 on our list is baking yeast, a small, unassuming product that carries massive importance for home food security. Active dry yeast and instant yeast packets are usually tucked away on a small strip of shelf in the baking aisle, easily overlooked by shoppers buying pre-made bread. However, yeast is the critical key that unlocks the true potential of basic pantry storage. A bag of raw flour and a jug of water are virtually useless on their own. But with a simple pinch of active yeast, those basic ingredients can be transformed into fresh bread, rolls, doughs, and baked goods that feed a whole family for pennies. Whenever economic pressures mount or grocery prices spike, home baking naturally surges as families look for ways to cut spending. This creates localized demand spikes that corporate inventory algorithms at major retailers often struggle to manage smoothly. Furthermore, yeast manufacturing relies on precise biological fermentation processes and specialized moisture-proof packaging, both of which are vulnerable to industrial supply chain hiccups. At many Walmart locations, shoppers are finding that yeast inventory is increasingly spotty, with multi-packs frequently missing and store brand options replaced by pricier single-serve packets. When a core functional ingredient like yeast disappears from local shelves, it strips away one of the most effective, self-reliant methods families have for making low-cost food at home. At number 5, concentrated tomato paste is quietly becoming far less reliable in the canned goods aisle. Tomato paste is one of the ultimate culinary workhorses in any kitchen pantry. Packed into small, inexpensive cans, it offers a dense concentration of flavor, natural acidity, and deep nutrition that can turn plain water, basic grains, and cheap cuts of meat into rich stews, pasta sauces, and hearty soups. Because it is so compact and shelf-stable, tomato paste allows families to store a massive amount of cooking potential in a remarkably small footprint. However, commercial tomato harvesting and processing are exceptionally vulnerable to extreme weather events, water allocation shifts, and rising transportation fuel costs. When tomato yields suffer or processing plants face operational backlogs, the impact ripples through the retail supply chain very quickly. Walmart shoppers are beginning to notice that 6-ounce cans of basic tomato paste are frequently out of stock or subject to strict purchase limits, while larger, more expensive pre-flavored sauces take up the vacant shelf space. Retailers prefer selling larger, higher-margin jars of pre-made pasta sauce over cheap, basic cans of paste, leading to a deliberate reduction in shelf allocation for these simple ingredients. Losing consistent access to inexpensive tomato paste means losing a critical tool for turning basic, low-cost pantry dry goods into flavorful, appetizing family meals. Stepping into number 4, we find evaporated milk, a classic shelf-stable dairy product that has sustained households through tough economic times for generations. Evaporated milk is fresh milk that has had roughly 60% of its water content removed through heat processing before being sealed in airtight cans for long-term storage. Unlike fresh milk, which requires constant refrigeration and spoils within weeks, evaporated milk can sit safely on a cool pantry shelf for years without losing its nutritional value. It is an indispensable backup item for cooking, baking, making coffee, and providing essential dairy fats and protein when fresh milk is unavailable or too expensive to purchase frequently. The commercial dairy sector, however, has been navigating severe cost spikes in cattle feed, cold chain logistics, and aluminum tin plate packaging. These compounding pressures have forced processing plants to consolidate their product lines and cut back on lower volume production runs. When you scan the dairy baking aisle at Walmart, the selection of evaporated milk is visibly thinning out. Store brands are routinely missing from the shelves for weeks at a time, leaving behind only name brand options priced significantly higher than they were just a couple of years ago. When families lose reliable access to affordable evaporated milk, they lose an essential non-refrigerated cushion that protects their kitchen budget during unexpected power outages, financial pinches, or winter storms. Reaching number 3 on our list, budget bouillons, including broth cubes, concentrated bases, and bulk powders, are disappearing or undergoing severe price adjustments. Bouillon is perhaps the most powerful secret weapon for any home cook working with a limited budget. A single small jar of bouillon powder or a box of classic flavor cubes can transform gallons of plain boiling water, simple rice, dried beans, or leftover vegetable scraps into savory, satisfying soups and grains. It provides the essential savory depth that makes basic, repetitive, low-cost foods enjoyable to eat day after day. Despite its undeniable usefulness, low-cost bouillon is precisely the kind of product that retail giants often targeted for inventory rationalization. Because small boxes of bouillon cubes are low-priced items that take up shelf space without generating massive profit margins for the retailer, Walmart has increasingly shifted shelf priority toward expensive, pre-packaged liquid broths in heavy cardboard cartons. These liquid broths take up far more space, cost significantly more per serving, and are far less practical for long-term pantry storage compared to concentrated cubes or powders. When shoppers are forced to buy expensive liquid cartons instead of compact, inexpensive bouillon cubes, their cost per meal skyrockets overnight. The quiet clearance of cheap bouillon options from Walmart shelves is a clear reflection of corporate retail strategy favoring high-margin packaging over true consumer value. At number 2, canned seafood staples, specifically high-density protein options like canned sardines, mackerel, and budget-tier tuna, are facing severe availability issues. Canned fish has long been recognized as one of the most efficient, nutrient-dense, and shelf-stable protein sources available to the average grocery shopper. Packed with healthy omega-3 fatty acids, vital minerals, and long-lasting protein, canned fish requires zero refrigeration, zero cooking, and can be consumed straight from the container during emergency situations or quick lunch breaks. However, global commercial fishing industries are currently experiencing massive operational hurdles, ranging from strict harvest quotas and rising marine fuel expenses to surging costs for tin packaging and international maritime shipping. These global pressures show up clearly on the grocery shelf. At Walmart, the canned seafood aisle is looking increasingly sparse, with lower-cost brands of sardines and mackerel vanishing altogether, leaving behind a narrow selection of highly priced premium offerings. Furthermore, the remaining budget cans are frequently subject to shrinkage, where the price stays the same, but the net weight of the product inside drops noticeably. For budget-focused shoppers relying on canned seafood as an affordable alternative to skyrocketing fresh beef, pork, and poultry prices, this disappearing supply represents a major hit to household nutrition and food security. Finally, arriving at number 1 on our list, we have canned butter and shelf-stable butter products, an essential survival staple that is becoming nearly impossible to find in standard retail stores. Canned butter is real, high-fat dairy butter that has been sealed under sterile conditions into metal tins, allowing it to remain completely shelf-stable without refrigeration for years at a time. For preppers, rural families, off-grid homesteaders, and budget-conscious households, canned butter is considered the gold standard of long-term food storage because pure fats are notoriously difficult to preserve outside of a freezer. While canned butter was once easily accessible through specialty retailers and select large-format Walmart stores catering to rural communities, it has almost entirely vanished from physical retail shelves over recent months. Modern corporate inventory models are intensely focused on fast-moving, perishable fresh goods that force consumers to make weekly trips back into the store. A high-value product that can sit safely in a home pantry for a decade without spoiling does not fit into the rapid turnover business model preferred by major retail chains today. As a result, shoppers looking to secure shelf-stable real butter are being pushed toward expensive online specialty sites, leaving standard retail shelves completely devoid of this ultimate storage staple. The complete disappearance of canned butter from Walmart shelves is the clearest proof that the modern grocery retail environment is shifting away from supporting long-term home self-reliance, forcing shoppers to remain entirely dependent on fragile, real-time supply chains. When you step back and look at these 8 disappearing items as a whole, a clear and undeniable pattern emerges across the grocery landscape. Retailers are not necessarily running out of every item in the building, but they are systematically altering what kind of items receive valuable shelf real estate. Low-cost, basic, highly functional, and long-lasting staples that empower people to cook efficiently at home are being squeezed out to make room for highly processed, higher-margin, convenience-oriented products that require frequent repurchasing. The key to navigating this changing retail environment is not to panic, but to become a far more observant, deliberate, and proactive shopper. Pay close attention to the bottom shelves of your local Walmart, track price-per-ounce metrics rather than sticker prices, and recognize when a staple item you rely on begins to show signs of inconsistent restocking. When you notice an essential basic item fading from the shelves, consider securing an extra unit or two during your normal shopping trips before it disappears completely. By understanding the underlying corporate and supply chain mechanisms driving these quiet inventory shifts, you can protect your household budget, maintain your family's food security, and ensure that your home pantry remains fully stocked no matter what changes take place in the grocery store aisles tomorrow.